Hello, my name is Chad Bouton. I'm the founder and CEO of Neuvotion. Our company was founded with the sole purpose of restoring independence in folks that have experienced either a stroke or a traumatic injury and are trying to regain independence and function. I want to introduce myself a little bit more, my team. We are all experienced individuals in commercializing medical device technology. I've led large R&D efforts throughout the years in the space of brain-computer interfaces. In fact, I was involved in the very first human cases and first implantations and chronic BCI work. And I'm going to tell some of the patient stories today and what led to the founding of Neuvotion. But again, incredible team, Dave Jones, leading regulatory and operations, and we've worked together for about 30 years, and John Brilliant, who's very experienced in startup companies in the medical space, and Bob Wild and Ryan Goldband, incredible engineers. And of course, we have a much larger team, but these are just the key leads. So I'll start with just a little bit of a story about something that happened to me in my mid-20s. I actually suffered a traumatic brain injury and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And at that point, I had two subdural hematomas, and the neurosurgeon had to go in and stop the bleeding and save my life. In fact, that night, had to go in twice during the evening. And in the morning, he told my family he didn't know if I would recover because I had lost speech, I had expressive aphasia, and I also had severe traumatic injuries physically, and it was many months of speech therapy and physical therapy and even occupational therapy, OT, for regaining the ability to live independently again. And it was a long road, but after some time, I was able to recover, and I was extremely lucky. And not a day goes by when I don't think about how lucky I was. And just a few years into my career, I had the opportunity to work on what was called the BrainGate program with Brown University individuals and researchers, fellow researchers, and with a startup company at that point. And this was, again, the first cases of brain-computer interfaces being implanted in humans. And I knew at that point this is what I wanted to dedicate my career to. But as we look at the entire market and the opportunity here, this is something that is relevant not just to those who have suffered traumatic injuries or a stroke, but we're all getting older, and neurological disorders are sharply increasing due to that increased lifespan. And probability of stroke or injury has gone up 80%, in fact, since 1990. And currently, now that the tallies have been done more thoroughly, we're looking at 100, actually, it's more than 100 million people living with motor impairment or dysfunction due to just stroke and injury alone. And there's a second peak in terms of injury and spinal cord injury for older patients, no longer just a case where it's younger people or males that are getting injured. So I've had people in my clinical studies through the years and people we've worked with closely that have fallen in the bathroom, just getting up in the middle of the night. Or I had another gentleman who fell in Home Depot, and I've had folks that have had car accidents, and there's been many diving accidents as well. And it's something that can happen to any of us. But when we look at the opportunity, Neuvotion was founded in 2019, and I founded the company because I had spent 20 some years working with patients and leading BCI studies, and also leading what we call brain-body interface technology studies, where we brought together not only implanted BCIs, but also body interfaces that I'll share with you. And we realized we could carve out the non-invasive body interface technology and start moving towards a first product in a much more pragmatic and fast to market timeline and that kind of approach. And we realized that we could address the larger population of stroke and spinal cord injury, which accounts for 60% of those cases that we discussed. And we could really accelerate things and then follow with our development of both spinal cord and brain interface technologies that I'll talk more about later. And with this, we can really change how restorative medicine is done. and performed, and also we can maximize human potential and increase independence. And that is our mission, is increasing and restoring independence in those that have lost it. Okay, so the science began again 20 years ago, and we then several years later not only showed we could implant motor and sensory electrode arrays and restore function and enable interaction with computers. And in fact, in one 60 Minutes piece where they covered our work in those early days, we showed a woman who could move her wheelchair and navigate around the room, her powered wheelchair, just by using her thoughts with an implanted array or a BCI in her M1, a primary motor sensory, or primary motor cortex. And then a few years later, we said, after talking to those initial patients, we realized it really was about regaining function and moving again and being able to perform self-feeding and just being able to do self-grooming and really those independence things. And I had a tiny taste of losing independence again in my 20s. And this is something that really resonated with us and really drove us to then found the company. And what we found and learned in the science was that we could restore function by linking the BCI to a body interface, in this case, a high resolution, highly flexible type device. This is a thin patch technology we've developed that you can place anywhere on the body. And with high resolution, you can pinpoint neuromuscular and different neural targets. I'll get more into that. And so we could restore, and not only an assistive mode with a brain-computer interface, but we've created a device and a wearable technology called NewStim, where it has onboard AI, taking what we learned from the brain patterns and correlation to non-invasive measured type signals to restore function. So this video just gives you a little history of the science, and we'll move quickly into the first product and then our pipeline of technologies, and we'll get into the revenue generation model and reimbursement as well.
It was the next day, it was July 18th, 2020, and we were just hanging out by the pool, and I went to dive into the pool. So like I dove in aggressively as usual, and then I just blacked out. Next thing you know, there was a helicopter on the front lawn. And you know, the next day I couldn't even move. Then October 2021, I met Chad, and they approached me about joining the study.
When we met Keith for the first time, he was not even able to lift his arms off of his wheelchair, and he was not able to feel anything in his arm and hands either. After Keith was enrolled into the study, we performed functional MRI, and this allowed us to view the motor and sensory areas of Keith's brain, and it allowed us to really pinpoint where we needed to implant both the motor and sensory electrodes.
After opening the skull and opening the cover of the brain, we then got out a stimulator. We had a pretty good idea where the hand areas were going to be, and we stimulated them directly.
You feel the thumb?
It's in the thumb?
Yeah, you think
So I placed it right over one area, and he said, I feel my thumb. I said, what part of your thumb? He said, my thumb tip, the inside of my thumb tip. And I said, oh, we found it. At that point, we brought in the actual device, mounted it onto the skull, and then used these wires to gently lay them without damaging them, and place them precisely in those three areas that felt the fingers, as well as the two areas where we knew that his hand motor function was.
So Keith's brain is literally connected to a computer. There are signals from his motor area responsible for movement going to the computer, and signals from the computer are going back to different stimulation points in his body, brain, and spinal cord. And the goal is to restore movement and the sense of touch in a lasting way.
But I like to see an actual person, like a family member, touch you and feel them is different.
Since Keith has started the trial, he has gained over 100% in arm strength, and he's already starting to feel sensations in certain parts of his arm and even wrist. We have started to see some lasting new sensations in his arm that are present even when we turn off the bypass. For me personally, this is an incredible moment. For years, we have been wanting to really tackle the restoration of movement and the sense of touch and bring those together. And we've also wanted to create lasting effects. I think we're going to continue to see progress, and I think it'll be applicable to the millions of folks around the world that really need this technology. So, as you can see, we've spent years developing the technology with a sharp focus on both movement restoration, but also even sensory restoration. And this concept of a double neural bypass incorporates our early work from 2 decades ago, and then the most recent work and bringing it all together. And what we realized in 2019 is that we could go ahead and carve out the non-invasive technology, as I was mentioning, and we could get to the market and patients faster with a non-invasive approach. So our breakthrough was that we observed patterns in the brain that we could predict actually with non-invasive measurement techniques. In this wearable device, it has onboard AI that uses special types of sensing that are basically built into the device, and someone can just initiate gross motion, which is actually preserved in a large number of cases after stroke and spinal cord injury. Even at the most common levels and manifestations, you'll have regained shoulder and gross motion, but the challenge and the large unmet need has been hand movement, open, close, functional grasping, and those kinds of movements that, of course, have a major impact on your life and your independence. And so our breakthrough in these observed correlations in our studies, and then, of course, we published our initial results in Nature, and we figured out a way to infer intentions of opening and closing the hand all without having to use a BCI in this initial version of the product. So completely non-invasive, wearable, onboard AI, completely wireless, and I'm going to show you that device in a moment. And then following that in our pipeline are 2 more technologies we've already been doing pilot studies on that involve modulation of the spinal cord itself, and then, of course, coming in with our BCI technology I'll touch on for even more challenging and broader cases. Now, this device is called NewStim, again, a wearable. You'll see the image on the far right with a high-resolution body interface that has over about 175 stimulation points. And this allows very precise and what we call focal stimulation. It's a proprietary stimulation type waveform and paradigm that we've developed over the years. And the algorithms, again, allow independent use. So I'm going to show you one more video with a array of people, and one particular individual will be highlighted, but you'll see other cases of stroke and spinal cord injury in individuals regaining function using this completely non-invasive approach with our NewStim first product, which now is FDA cleared as of just several months ago. So take a look.
My name is Kathy. I am married and a grandmother of 3. On July 3rd of 2022, I got up to go to the bathroom, and I must have fallen and hit my head. I knew, because I couldn't move anything. I knew that I was paralyzed. The biggest challenge having to face is watching your family try to comprehend it. What do we do next? I could not be left alone.
20 years ago, we started to look at the question, could we help someone who had experienced a stroke or a spinal cord injury to regain more independence? Our vision at Neuvotion is to unlock the patient's potential. Our first product is called NewStem, and this is a device that's lightweight, it's thin, goes on the arm and allows the user to start to move their hand again. To be able to restore independence, we need to really focus on the hands. We use our hands every day for so many things that are so crucial.
If you've lost something as important as your hand, and you can get back even for 5 minutes, it's really wonderful.
All of this happens through the AI, and someone can do this naturally. We use a very precise type of stimulation that targets specific muscles and nerves that allow different types of movements.
It's incredible.
To be able to allow someone to pick up a bottle of water again and take a drink all on their own, or to hold a loved one's hand, that really is a game changer.
I never thought I would be able to hold my grandson. I never thought that I would ever be strong enough to hold him. And the more I use the device, the longer and more often I can do it.
This is the future, how we envision it, and this is what we are working to do for the millions of people living with paralysis and paresis. We're developing both brain and spinal cord stimulation technologies that will further unlock the potential for a patient.
6 months after starting the NewStem, I can brush my teeth, I can use my wheelchair better.
We're looking forward to seeing Neuvotion users regain function, reconnect with their loved ones, and getting back to living their lives.
So in working with Kathy and other patients, it became very clear we needed to have assistive technology that could restore function and really promote independence. But then we also had heard clearly from many patients through the years that it's about getting stronger. And so one thing that Kathy has been experiencing as well is our spinal cord stimulation technology that also uses this high resolution focal stim that not only can provide modulation that unlocks anywhere from in our pilot studies, we've seen 400 to 1200% increase in actual activated muscles and strength. This is measured force, not just EMG or electromyogram type signals, but actual measured generated force, and then functional tasks and assessments are done showing significant improvement. And we also have developed this ecosystem where our technologies can communicate wirelessly with each other. And so our AI technology we call Glide Path that infers from actual onboard non-invasive sensing can actually predict when someone is trying to open their hand and pick an object up, or say, let's say, grab this cup and take a drink, and it starts to stimulate the right muscles to activate the opening and closing of the fingers even before the hand gets to the target or before the arm reaches the location. So this has been phenomenal. We've had patients who were supposed to just, say do 20 reps, but they'll typically go on, and one gentleman just recently went on for 60 or 70 repetitions and didn't want to stop. So, this is our entire ecosystem that we're developing. And I'll tell you about one other element, but we're basically flipping the paradigm and developing the body interface first strategically so we can get out there and reach patients. So we already have FDA clearance and have worked through all of the reimbursement codes and have a clear plan and roll out with U.S. thought leaders and clinical partners that we've had for many years. And we already have a long list of sites that are ready to be pilot sites. And we also have been developing our third technology in the pipeline called BrainPort. And this is actually a much less invasive approach. I can't get into all of the details yet, but we've already conducted some early feasibility studies in humans and have seen excellent performance in terms of the actual inference for different types of functions, Again, I won't go into any details yet on that, but it's in our pipeline, and feasibility, results have been phenomenal. So this is what we envision as a seamless integration with NewStim and FocalStim as well. Our philosophy and approach has been to look at not only closed loop and reinforcement learning and AI, which is something we've been using routinely for years, but is to make this an approach that really can reach a much broader population and not just the special cases. Although we can and have worked with patients with ALS and plan to continue to target those needs. But we want to also open this up to even much broader populations. And of course, the leading cases, spinal cord injury and stroke, is our first. And we're looking at our Series A, and already have folks that have invested in our pre-Series A round, and we've already raised several $1 million, and really have gained a lot of momentum, and we're targeting 15 to 20 for the Series A round. We would very much like anyone interested to reach out to us. We'll be expanding not only our various clinical sites, but transition to manufacturing for the new product, the first product, NewStim. And you probably have seen, it was just a few months ago, we were on NBC Nightly News. We had Time Magazine here. We ended up not only having a full feature exclusive, or a full feature in Time Magazine, but also we later won the one of the Time Magazine's Health Innovations of the Year award. We were very fortunate there. And then last but not least, I want to just explain, how we bring this together and do a very patient-centric, holistic approach, where our first product in the pipeline is assistive, reaching a wide, range of folks. And then we bring in restorative technology to help people get stronger, promoting plasticity, as I explained. And then last but not least, our BrainPort, we believe, will be transformative as all three of these technologies work together in the ecosystem we've developed. We've really always considered both the brain and the body as equally important. And of course, we all know that mind and body have to be considered, and the patient's needs really need to drive everything that we do. And our advisory board is amazing, with a mix of medical experts from varied backgrounds, but world-renowned experts in their fields, and strategic advisors, former GE Ventures executive Trevor Hawkins, Margaret Crotty, phenomenal, everyone here, Dan Shuba, formerly at Johns Hopkins, and Rory Murphy. And, we have other new members that have joined, and Sandeep Singh. So this is a team effort. We are extremely excited about where we are and where we're going, and we hope you'll join us in our mission to help restore independence and help the 100 million plus people or individuals that are living with paralysis or paresis. And thank you for your time.